Welcome everybody back to the Dude Nurse Show. I'm your host, the Dude Nurse. Trying something a little bit different for this episode. I'm going to record a vlog for the YouTube and recording audio for the podcast. Thought I would see how that works. So let me know what you guys think. So today we're going to talk about, well, let me back up. Today in the paper, in the Houston Chronicle, there was an article about this new disease coming out, and they're calling it the deer zombie disease or zombie deer disease, and it's kind of scaring the shit out of people. A lot of it has to do with the fact that there's a lot of disinformation out there, and the technical name for this disease is CWD, or chronic wasting disease. And what we've seen is this disease coming up in certain areas of the country. There's been confirmed cases of when hunters hunt and they kill deer, a lot of times they'll do it for sport, or a lot of people eat deer meat. I do not. I'm not into gamey stuff like that. It's just never been my thing. I'm not a hunter. As you guys have seen some of my YouTube videos and stuff, I'm really into guns, but I don't hunt. So what happens is that some of these deer carcasses are infected with this particular disease, and what's concerning to epidemiologists and the CDC and folks like that is that this particular disease might actually make the jump or the transition to now become infective to humans. A lot of you may not know, but this is how kind of a lot of diseases started. For example, HIV. HIV was, I believe it was called simian immunodeficiency virus. And that is like, apes and monkeys and things like that. The virus mutated and then became transmissible to humans. Another one was mad cow disease, which was then for humans called Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. And this Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease or mad cow disease is very similar to this zombie deer disease, because it is suspected that, we know that Creutzfeldt-Jakob and mad cow disease are caused by what's known as prions. Prions are, there's viruses, fungus, bacteria, all kinds of, things of that nature, protozoas, and, all kinds of funky life forms out there. Prions don't really fit into any of those categories. They're really not living or dead. We suspect that they are protein-like in nature, and for like Creutzfeldt-Jakob and mad cow, the cases have been 100% fatal. They are brutal. And the most interesting part when I was reading this article was these scientists are telling these hunters, hey, if you guys are going to hunt in an area that has been known to show, other cases of this, have the deer meat tested. And these fucking morons are like, oh, well, we're going to eat it anyway. And I'm like, really? Really? Like, what kind of sense does that make? It makes no sense. I'm going to digress for a minute here. Being a registered nurse, I'm all about taking care of patients and educating people and giving people the tools that they need to take care of themselves. But ultimately, the real responsibility, the burden really lies on them. It's not my job. In fact, it's unethical. I can't, put a gun to their head and say, take your fucking medicine, go to your doctor, follow your appointments, follow your treatment plan. I can't do that. And sometimes, in some cases, I wish I could have, because sometimes I just think it would have made my life a little easier. But, that's not the purpose of this. We educate and we make recommendations, and that's kind of where our, duties end. So sometimes I think that we end up saving people who don't necessarily, I don't want to say deserve to be saved, but natural selection. We fuck with natural selection way, way, way too often. If you wanna roll the dice and go out and eat infected deer meat, knowing the risk, then don't come crying to me because now you're sick and you're dying because you ate infected deer meat. I mean, hello? What kind of a fucking moron are you? It's like these people that, a couple of years ago we had this tiny little rainstorm called Hurricane Harvey. It, really did some damage. And every time there's flash flooding, I'm a native Houstonian. I grew up here my whole life. I've been through hurricanes, tornadoes, flash floods, tropical storms, you name it. There's always plenty of time for hurricanes. People have plenty of time to evacuate, and they issue mandatory evacuations. But I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the legalities of actually forcing someone to leave their home. So these jackasses stay and try to ride it out, and then when the storm hits, it's so dangerous, it's so bad. Well, now they realize they're up shit creek without a paddle, and now they want to call 911 and put these poor bastards at risk. I don't agree with that. I mean, you knew the risk. You made an educated decision. It's your decision. It's your house. No one can force you. But fuck you. I'm not coming there, in the middle of, 140 mile an hour winds to try to save your stupid ass. I'm sorry. I'm just not. And that's how I kind of feel sometimes about some of the medical interventions that, that we often do. People are fucking stupid. And we intervene all too often when nature seems as if though it is selecting these morons for extinction, which is a good thing because, stupidity and ignorance and all these kind of things, we sometimes think there's a genetic component. So if they live to procreate and have kids, then that's just more stupid fucking people in the world to deal with. Like these idiots with the hot water challenge or the boiling water challenge. I don't know what the fuck it was called. When they had the last polar vortex and it was, the whole country was freezing. These idiots were on TV trying to make a name, or I'm sorry, on YouTube or whatever, trying to make a name for themselves. They had boiling hot water and they would throw it up in the air to see if it would freeze. Well, the wind would change direction or it wouldn't be quite as cold as they thought, and then boiling hot, scalding water would fall on them. Sorry, you're a moron. You deserve to be scalded and burned, and the world will be a better place without your dumb ass. Pardon my digression. Looking at these diseases, there's been a history of diseases that have transformed from animals and things like that to being able to infect and affect humans. It's kind of weird. I think of it in terms of nature having its own immune system. It's really kind of intricate. We have an immune system. If something invades, our bodies react and mount a defense. I really believe that nature does the same thing. And nature, you can quantify that very, very broadly. There's certain things like, for example, the Ebola virus. We don't know, it's, to my knowledge, we still don't know its original origin or its, original host. And, we believe it started in Africa. And, I think deforestation and things like that, human encroachment into nature has a lot to do with some of these things. We want to build, and take over nature. Well, I think nature fights back. It's proven. That's why a lot of the diseases that we have today, like a lot of them, we can't use penicillin for. The germs out there just laugh at penicillin. They've developed a resistance to penicillin. They've, like MRSA, methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus. It's crazy. Nature kind of has its own immune system. These viruses and bacteria and things like that find a way to mutate and make themselves more adept at surviving. Nature finds a way. It will fight. It will do what it needs to do so that it can survive. And I think we oftentimes overlook that. So, when I read this article today, I was really kind of taken aback by it. I think people, there's tons of movies and games and all kinds of shit that has to do with zombies, and people are kind of fascinated with zombies. And I don't want people to get the wrong information, but there is a possibility they've exposed macaque or macaque or something like that, some type of monkey, which their DNA is very, very, very similar to ours. And these monkeys have gotten sick with this particular disease, this CWD, chronic wasting disease. And so, I think it's coming, because eventually it will find a way to mutate and find a new host. It's inevitable. And viruses and bacteria have the capability to do things that humans simply do not. They can share DNA and RNA and all these kinds of things. Like, for example, E. coli. E. coli is a pretty innocuous bacteria. We have it in our large intestine. It's responsible for a great deal of our vitamin K production. But the E. coli you hear about on the news is usually the E. coli 0157H7 strain. That's a particular strain of E. coli that's really, really bad. That's basically, I believe it was the Shigella toxin, and E. coli basically kind of got together and had a baby, if you will. Bacteria have the ability to, like I said, share DNA and RNA. It would be the equivalent of if tomorrow I woke up and said, you know what, I'd really like some zebra stripes, and I guzzled down some zebra DNA, and all of a sudden I had stripes. Well, we all know it doesn't work that way, but bacteria has some different funky capabilities. Viruses have the ability, once they get inside of the host cell, viruses can cause no issues unless it gets inside of the cell, which it can lie dormant for years, and then all of a sudden something turns it on or activates it, and then it starts replicating inside the cell, and then the cell bursts. Cell bursts, and then all of a sudden our immune system is flooded with all of these attackers, and our immune system goes haywire. So there's some really interesting things out there, and just the main point I want people to understand is that don't be foolish. If you're hunting in an area, and you've heard recommendations that hey, because people hunt all over the country, they hunt all over the world. Just something to be aware of. And certainly, don't be so damn stupid to think that you can be the exception. Why take that risk? Something might not happen, but something might, and it might be something terrible. And so I just want people to kind of have an idea about this. Like I said, I saw in the paper, and it just kind of struck me, and I thought, I'm gonna let my peeps know about it. So thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Dude Know Show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys learned something. Until next time, the dude nurse saying, take care of yourselves, Andy.